Your mind has vulnerabilities. Not weaknesses, vulnerabilities. Invisible exploits that can be triggered to make you think, feel, and act against your own interests. And trap number 4, it's operating in your life right now, and you don't even know it. These aren't abstract concepts. These are specific, documented psychological mechanisms that can be weaponized against you, by others, by systems, and most dangerously, by yourself. Let's expose all 6, but pay special attention to number 4, because it's the one most people completely miss until it's already destroyed them. Trap 1. The sunk cost fallacy. The first trap catches you through your own investment. The more you've put into something, time, money, effort, emotion, the harder it becomes to walk away, even when walking away is clearly the right choice. This is the sunk cost fallacy, the irrational commitment to something, not based on its current value, but on what you've already sacrificed for it. You stay in the wrong relationship because you've already invested years. You continue the failing business because you've already invested money. You finish the degree you hate because you've already invested time. You maintain beliefs you know are wrong because you've already invested identity. But the trap is subtle because it feels like loyalty. It feels like commitment. It feels like strength. I don't quit. I finish what I start. I honor my investments. But that's not strength. That's the trap working. True strength is the ability to recognize when continued investment is wasteful and to cut your losses despite the pain of admitting you were wrong. The reality is, sunk costs are already gone. They're in the past. They can't be recovered. The only question that matters is, given where I am right now, is this still the right path forward? Not, have I already invested too much to quit, but if I were starting from zero today, with what I now know, would I choose this? If the answer is no, then the rational move is to stop, immediately, regardless of what you've already sacrificed. But most people can't do this. They keep pouring resources into failing ventures because the alternative, admitting that all previous investment was wasted, is too painful. So they waste more and more until the loss is catastrophic instead of just significant. The escape from this trap requires brutal honesty. Separate what you've already spent from what you're about to spend. Judge the path forward on its own merits, not on how much you've already sacrificed. Your past investment doesn't justify future investment. Sometimes the best thing you can do is stop digging. Trap 2. Confirmation bias. Your mind doesn't search for truth, it searches for confirmation of what it already believes. When you believe something, your mind becomes a filter. It notices evidence that supports the belief. It dismisses evidence that contradicts the belief. It interprets ambiguous information as supportive. It remembers confirming examples and forgets contradicting ones. This happens automatically, unconsciously. You're not doing it intentionally. Your brain is trying to be efficient by maintaining consistent beliefs rather than constantly re-evaluating everything. But this efficiency comes at the cost of accuracy, because the world is complex, and most beliefs, if truly examined, have evidence on both sides. Confirmation bias ensures you only see one side. Think about political beliefs. If you're committed to one side, you probably consume media that confirms your views. You probably have friends who share your views. You probably interpret events through a lens that confirms your views. And you probably think people on the other side are deluded, while they're doing the exact same thing from their perspective. Neither side is seeing reality clearly. Both sides are trapped in confirmation bias, each becoming more certain while actually becoming less accurate.
The escape requires something difficult, actively seeking disconfirming evidence, not to tear down your beliefs, but to test them, to make them stronger by exposing them to challenge. Ask yourself, what would prove this wrong? What evidence would I need to see to change my mind? And then genuinely look for that evidence. If you can't find any disconfirming evidence at all, that's not because your belief is perfectly true. That's because your confirmation bias is working flawlessly. Strong beliefs should be able to withstand challenge. If your beliefs can't, they're not strong, they're fragile, and you're protecting them through selective attention. Trap 3. The Dunning-Kruger Effect. The less you know about something, the more confident you feel about your understanding. And the more you actually know, the more you recognize how much you don't know. This is the Dunning-Kruger Effect. Incompetence breeding false confidence, expertise breeding accurate uncertainty. You see this everywhere. People with surface-level knowledge who are absolutely certain they understand complex topics. They've read one article, watched one video, heard one perspective, and they're convinced they've mastered the subject. Meanwhile, actual experts in the field are uncertain, qualified in their statements, aware of nuance and exceptions and the limits of current understanding. The trap is that confidence is persuasive. The person who speaks with absolute certainty sounds more credible than the person who speaks with appropriate uncertainty. So incompetent but confident people often get more influence than knowledgeable but humble people. And here's the dangerous part. You can't see this trap operating in yourself, because when you're in the confidence peak of incompetence, you don't have the knowledge necessary to recognize your own ignorance. You genuinely believe you understand. The trap is perfect because it's self-concealing.
The escape is to cultivate intellectual humility, to recognize that confidence is not correlated with accuracy, to be suspicious of your own certainty, especially on topics where you don't have deep expertise. Ask yourself, how much do I actually know about this? How many perspectives have I examined? What are the strongest arguments against my position? What would an expert say about my understanding? If you feel absolutely certain about a complex topic, that's your signal that you might be trapped. Real expertise recognizes complexity. False expertise oversimplifies. Stay humble, stay curious, and be very cautious about your certainties. Trap 4. Learned helplessness. Now we arrive at trap number 4, the one most people miss, the one that's probably operating in your life right now without your awareness. Learned helplessness. Here's how it forms. You experience a situation where your actions don't matter, where no matter what you do, the outcome is bad, where your effort doesn't change results. You try, you fail. You try differently, you fail again. Eventually, you stop trying. But here's the trap. That helplessness doesn't stay confined to the original situation. It generalizes, it spreads. You stop trying in areas where action actually would matter. You accept circumstances you could change because you've learned that trying is pointless. This was discovered in psychology experiments with animals. Dogs who were given electric shocks they couldn't avoid eventually stopped trying to avoid them, even when escape became possible. They had learned helplessness so deeply that they couldn't recognize when their situation had changed. Humans do this too. Someone grows up in a household where their needs are consistently ignored. They learn that expressing needs doesn't work. Years later, as adults, they don't express needs in relationships where their partner would actually respond. The helplessness learned in childhood operates in adulthood where it's no longer accurate. Or someone tries multiple businesses that fail for reasons outside their control. They learn that business efforts don't succeed. Years later, they don't pursue opportunities that actually would work because they've learned that entrepreneurship is pointless. Or someone attempts to change a toxic work environment and is consistently shut down. They learn that resistance is futile. Years later, they accept abuse in a new workplace where resistance would actually be effective because they've learned that speaking up doesn't work. The trap is invisible because the original lessons were accurate. At the time, effort genuinely didn't matter, but those accurate lessons in one context create inaccurate beliefs that apply in all contexts. And here's what makes this particularly insidious. Learned helplessness feels like wisdom. It feels like you've learned the truth about life. It doesn't feel like a trap. It feels like mature acceptance of reality. That's just how things are. There's no point trying. I've learned that nothing I do makes a difference. This isn't wisdom. This is learned helplessness. The escape requires recognizing that past powerlessness doesn't mean present powerlessness. That experiences in one domain don't determine possibilities in another domain. That the lessons you learned when you were younger, less resourced, less knowledgeable, less capable, those lessons might not apply anymore. Test your helplessness beliefs. I can't change this. Really? Have you actually tried? Or have you accepted it without attempt because you learned long ago that trying is pointless? This always happens to me. Really? Always? Or are you seeing a pattern that was true once and assuming it's permanent? Many things in your life that you accept as unchangeable are actually changeable, but you won't change them because learned helplessness has convinced you that effort is futile. Break the pattern. Test your helplessness. Act as if agency is possible, because often it is. Trap 5. The spotlight effect. The fifth trap distorts your perception of social reality. The spotlight effect is the belief that others are paying far more attention to you than they actually are. You think everyone noticed your mistake. They didn't. You think people are judging your appearance constantly. They're not. You think your embarrassing moment will be remembered forever. It won't. We're all the center of our own experience, so we assume we're the center of others' experience too. But we're not. Most people are too busy worrying about how they appear to others to spend much time thinking about you. So stop performing for an audience that isn't actually paying attention. Stop limiting yourself based on scrutiny that isn't actually happening. Stop letting imagined judgment prevent real action. The spotlight is in your head. Turn it off and move freely. Trap 6. The planning fallacy. The sixth trap sabotages your execution. The planning fallacy is the systematic tendency to underestimate how long tasks will take, how much they'll cost, and how difficult they'll be. You think the project will take 2 weeks. It takes 2 months. You think you'll stick to the diet this time. You don't. You think you'll save money this year. You spend it all. This isn't pessimism you need, it's realism. Because the planning fallacy ensures you make plans based on best-case scenarios, while reality usually delivers average or worst-case scenarios. Why does this happen? Because when you plan, you imagine everything going smoothly. You don't account for obstacles, delays, distractions, or your own human limitations. You imagine ideal execution, while reality is messy. The trap leads to chronic failure, not because you're incapable, but because your plans are unrealistic. And when you consistently fail to meet unrealistic plans, you start to believe you're bad at execution. You're not. You're bad at planning. The escape is simple. Multiply your estimates by 2.5. If you think something will take an hour, plan for 2.5 hours. If you think you'll save $500, plan for $200. Build in buffer for reality's messiness.
This isn't pessimism, it's accurate forecasting. And when your plans match reality, you actually execute successfully. These 6 traps break minds daily, but awareness is armor. Now that you see them, they lose their power. Watch for sunk costs keeping you in bad situations. Question your confirmation bias. Check your certainty against your actual knowledge. Test your learned helplessness. Ignore the imaginary spotlight and plan for reality, not best-case scenarios. Your mind is yours. These traps are known. The defense is awareness. This is mind armor, where traps are exposed and minds are freed.